Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Blue Table Talk Show. This is a migration talk show that helps Nigerians make informed decisions about migration decisions. On this episode of the show, we are going to be talking about talent is universal, but opportunities may not be, or are they? Mikobanti is on the streets of Lagos asking Nigerians if they think that talents are a good way or an opportunity for them to be able to migrate legally. And let's hear what they have to say on this interesting topic that we're unpacking today.
Yeah, I think having a vocational skill is actually necessary, actually for the youths particularly. Yeah, so at least to have a little income to support yourself, and you can see the situation of Nigeria that is not helping the youths.
Yeah, sure. And for me to know, I don't. I live in abroad, and where a lot of skill have been appreciated and lucrative, and kind of a very nice incentive.
Because people survive a lot because of it. We are all surviving not because of our vocational skills. Like these days now, if you don't have what you are doing, you are not hitting.
Yes, people look down on those that have vocational skills in Nigeria, most especially.
They feel look down on you. Only if you dey make money well for that business and you don't reach one kind of level, we say people don't know you. You don't make them. Maybe they make shoe, and that shoe they import them abroad, and you don't make that name. But if you never make that name, then go look down on you.
Yes, it is possible. I totally agree with that. And even I can use myself as an example. I'm a graduate, but I can believe you that that I have learned a lot of jobs, vocationals, and understand skills that I have. Like for example, I can drive a forklift. Yes, I'm a graduate. I can drive forklift.
Welcome back to the show, and we have seen and heard from Nigerians who think talent and vocational skills would help them be able to migrate legally or not. And with me in the studio today are two interesting personalities, very, very enlightening personalities who are going to shed some light on the conversation we're having today on whether Nigerians can migrate legally through vocational skills or if they can even build any form of economic empowerment through their talent. With me is Ibukun Owolabi, who is the Gender and Safeguarding Lead for Terra Academy for the Arts, otherwise known as TAFTA. Welcome, Ibukun. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
And we have also as well Emmanuel Oladipupo, who is from the NELEX Dex in the Migrant Resource Centre, known as MRC. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Thank you, madam. Good to be here.
Okay, so we're going to go straight in and we're going to unpack this topic. A very interesting one. Now, the first question I would have to ask you and to say is that, but before we say, a lot of people feel that there's so much information on the issue of safe migration, irregular migration. They know the dangers, they know the realities, they know the risk that is attached to trying to leave Nigeria irregularly. If you talk to any young Nigerian, 18 to 35, they will tell you, oh, I know that if you go through Libya, you might get killed. I know if you try to go through the desert, things are hard. However, a lot of these people have limited educational levels and they do not have enough access to information or do not even think that they're able to travel out of Nigeria legally. In their minds, I have just a school set, I'm a school set holder, or I have just my HND or my OND, and I don't think that I'm able to go to the embassy and apply for a visa regularly. What would you say? I would ask that, Ibukun. Do you think that there are any opportunities or talents or ways in which Nigerians can actually have a viable life? Do you think vocational skills can give people a successful life in Nigeria?
Well, thank you once again. I really believe that vocational skills can give one opportunities. I'm one who believes in you can have an education on one side and then learn a skill. Because skills, when you learn a skill that you're actually passionate about, you enjoy it, irrespective of your educational level, and you can trade with it. That's what skill acquisition also helps you to do. So in having a skill, maybe the first point of call that you go through is when you go to learn this skill, what are the associations or communities that are attached to this particular skill? If I want to take use an example of what we do at HAFTA, we train in the creative arts. So there are different levels. There's a sound design, there's stage lighting, there's animation, and there's script writing. They have communities. Okay. There's an instructor. There's a class. You're grouped. There's the fun of, if it's script writing a script. And writing a script, you can be a content creator.
Okay.
You can also write for adverts. It's also part of content creation. So, but you cannot isolate yourself. Because if you isolate yourself, the opportunities and information that you need to scale up, to move forward, to trade, it's within the community that you have created, or the community created for you in that space.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say here is that for young Nigerians, I can, as a young Nigerian, I'm a young Nigerian, please. I can then come to TAFTA and say, I want to learn a skill in the creative space. Yes. I can learn script writing, and I can actually use that as an opportunity. Okay, that's interesting. I think that would be something that we're going to have to ask you how that's going to happen. But before we do that, let me ask Emmanuel a question here. So, Emmanuel, in what ways do you think that technical and vocational skills can contribute to improved prospects for young Nigerians to legally migrate? Just how that's also now you heard Ibukun.
Yes.
She's come from the creative space, but then we have all sorts of other talents and vocational skills.
The realization that we are now in a gig economy did not start from Africa. It started from the West. And what a gig economy means is that it's gone, the world of work is gone beyond your certificates. It's what you can do. And so that's the importance of vocational and technical skills for people who intend to migrate, because once you can demonstrate that you can do this, and then you can get you can get some certification to back it up. So once you have a certificate to back your skill, which because it's not from the regular school, a trade test certificate from the Federal Ministry of Labor, and then you can get a reference letter from someone you have worked with, that this person have worked with me as a cinematographer or as a plumber for this period of time, then that gives you a good way of getting into the world market.
Interesting. So now we're hearing Emmanuel shedding light on a topic and an issue that I'm sure that a lot of Nigerians don't know. I did not know about the fact that there was a trade certificate route for a long time. It was in the space of my migration advocacy journey that I found that out. But then the question is this: you will have to have gotten the talent and the skills first.
Yes.
So I'll be asking you: do you think that it is easy for a lot of Nigerians to get up and say, when we believe that if you don't go to university, you have not gone to school yet? Do you think that it's actually easy for a lot of Nigerians to say, I'm going to go and get a skill? And what would you say the experience has been, even with TAFTA?
Well, I would believe in times that we are now in Nigeria. Yes, education is important. A lot of young people still want to go that route just for the sake of maybe pressure, or I don't want to be left out or something. Yes, education is largely important, but you have to look at the side of what I can trade in. The jobs, where are they?
Fantastic. I was going to ask you that. So for instance now, are you saying that are there jobs and opportunities for people who have actually come through? So you say there's lighting, for instance now, there's lighting, there's sound, there's, and you mentioned what are the opportunities that exist for them? And even from here with TAFTA, can I, as a young person who has gone through TAFTA, say I can get a job anywhere in the world? Is it a global, does the organization provide a global platform for young Nigerians to say, I am well trained, I am skilled? What are the things that can come out of me actually deciding to use vocational skills to travel or to even build a life? Because while we say migration is a right, and you should do it the right way, we're also saying that let us also look as well, like what we do at the Blue Table Talk. We help you make informed decisions. How do you also use your skills even here in Nigeria?
Okay, there are many routes to this, but TAFTA in its own we provide opportunities. We do provide internships, we provide job placements for every one of our participants. goes through the program. So there's these 6 weeks of learning. Infused in the learning period is the practicals for those who have to do animation, sound design, stage lighting. It's practicals. So you have to have this hands-on experience beyond the theory part of it. Animation is also infused in the entire space. For script writing, your script, you must come out with a script. You must be able to present that, oh, I went through this course and this is my script. They mark, they assess you, even with the other courses. Now, coming out, I've graduated, I've done the 6 to 8 weeks period for the course. I can present that, okay, because we follow up, we have some of our staff members who follow up each participant through this journey, and they can ascertain, mark you off every point, step of the way for the 8 weeks. Now we have finished. You are eligible for an internship. So we do those placements. The recent AFRIF, we had like 15 participants from TAFTA who were in that program for the entire week. So we do all these placements, we collaborate.
Sorry, please, what is AFRIF? Because we're looking here at global opportunities. So, I mean, what would you, because for me, I know AFRIF, but that's a very interesting point for those that are listening. That's a global platform. Can you please, what is AFRIF? And then, Emmanuel, please, I'm coming right back to you now.
Okay, AFRIF, I hope I'll get the full meaning.
No, what is about? It's just what you
It's a stage to show African talents, the culture, the creative space. So there's the entertainers, there's the musicians, the actors, producers, designers, costumiers, makeup artists, you know, the whole works of the creative space.
Okay.
So it's a global stage. And then trainings, I know that the 2 last days of the event was for 2 days. There was a training session. Our cinematographer was at one. He attended.
Oh, fantastic. So it's like a festival.
It's a festival.
Oh, fantastic. And it's globally staged. It's here in Nigeria, but it's a global platform. Fantastic. So now, Emmanuel, I would like you to please provide us with countries or instances of places where global talents like this kind of talents you're talking about, and even other, no, so you know that this is creative talent. But then we also have technical talents. We have like plumbers, we have mechanics, we have AC repairers, we have the whole 9 yards. Because I know when we're talking before we even started the show, you actually mentioned, you made a reference to 70 skills. And I'm going to tell you. So can you sort of share with us instances of countries that actively seek for skilled workers through programs for legal migration?
Okay, there are actually a whole lot of a number of countries that are actively seeking skilled migrants. So just to mention but a few, there is the job work visa for countries like Germany, Sweden, and Poland. A number of European countries also now have what they call a job seeker visa. So for you to get that visa, you would have to show that you are skilled in that field, and then you are coming to search for a job for about a year. So those are 2 different ones. One is that you already got the job. That's the work visa. Then there is the job seeker. You have expertise in that field, and then you get a job seeker visa. Other countries like Canada and Australia, they have a part of giving permanent residency to people who have experience in some of these fields. And you'll be surprised that there are skills like plumber, butchers. You'll be surprised. People who are working abattoirs, they are wanted in some of these countries. So apart from Canada, Australia, Germany, even the United Kingdom, UK, a couple of months back, they were looking for truck drivers. So many countries, both in the West and Americas, are in search of skilled persons who do not necessarily have to have the bachelor's degree and others.
Okay, so I'm going to be asking you now. The first question I'll be asking you is there a procedure or a way, or what way do we actually go about getting this trade certificate? I'm a hairdresser. I'm a creative person. How will I get this trade certificate?
So there are 2 major ways of getting the trade certificate. The first is that you attend any of the trainings with in our unit, and this is directed by our sister department in the Ministry of Labour. It's called the Skill Upgrade and Vocational Training Center. So they have trainings. So at the end of those trainings, then they are tested, and then they get the certificates. Now, for those who have had their own training outside, and that's why the name of the department is Skill Upgrade and Vocational Training. So, for those who have learned outside, if you want to upgrade your skill, you can do that in the department, and then you get a certificate at the end. But if you have learned outside and you want to get the certificate, there are skilled persons who take those courses. So you need to show evidence that you have learned somewhere. So you probably do the certificate or the freedom, whichever way that you've learned it yet. So you bring the evidence, and then they'll put you on practical tests, and then at the end of those tests, then you'll be issued the certificates. The certificates come at a token. It's usually maybe plus or minus about 5,000. It's not up to.
You took my next question. I was going to say, are all these things free? You know how it is. We always like to know what the cost is. But even the training, the upgrade or the training, are those do those come at a particular cost, or are they free?
Okay, so all of our trainings are free, and that's one of the things. That's one of the major areas that NELEX under MRC does. So it's the idea is to ensure that people are the mandate of the Ministry of Labor is that every Nigerians are gainfully employed and under decent work environments, and that is what the MRC is also pushing. And to do this is to ensure that everyone is either employable or skilled. And it is over these years, it has been the bulk of our activities. To get access to the trainings, people come to our centers for profiling and counseling, because most times you get people come to our centers, and then because a friend learns fashion designing, they also want to learn fashion designing. But the person have tried photography in the past and the person liked it, but because he has lost touch with it, then he has forgotten it. So that's the essence of those profiling and counseling session, to get what the person's interest really is before we recommend them for trainings. And all of our trainings are free of charge. All our trainings are free of charge. Okay. We work with various partners. We work with GIZ, that's a German corporation, who is our on-ground partners. We have other partners like IOM, among others, who help to provide these trainings free of charge to people. But the certification is what would have to be paid for. Okay. Yes, and then from time to time, we depending on the authority or the authority that has been gotten, sometimes people who go through our training could have the certificate either completely subsidized or reduced for them.
Okay. It sounds like a very interesting pathway. But the next question that I would be throwing to that is, with this certificate, does it create an opportunity for me as a skilled worker to be able to migrate legally? Can I go to the airport? Can I go to the embassy and say, see, I am a plumber, I'm an electrician, I have a trade certificate from the Ministry of Labor and Employment. I want to apply for visa?
Okay, so yes, the trade test certificate of the Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment is an internationally recognized certificate. And from time to time, we get embassies or companies who will write to the ministry from different countries to confirm the authenticity of the certificate. It's just like the way we have our WAEC certificate or school certificate being verified by different schools. So they also recognize these certificates, and they will write to us to confirm that those certificates come from the ministry. So yes, it can be used in migration. What is important is that people know how to best position themselves, and that is why part of our drive is what we call the employability training. It is the current head of MRC, Barrister Maureen Ove, is trying to drive a new consciousness that there are actually jobs in Nigeria, but what we are battling with is the skill gap. So you want a plumber to do specific tasks, but there is someone who has the idea, but in different aspects. And so, or perhaps someone knows this job, but he can't present himself properly for you to see him or her. And that's the essence of our employability trainings, to help people present themselves better for employment purposes. You know, some things that people would overlook in a casual settings are not being overlooked in the world of work. When someone come to you for interview, there are certain things that you look out for, and these things does not necessarily does not require you being a graduate. You don't need to be a graduate to know that when you're in a formal settings having a conversation, you keep eye contact. Do you understand? So those are some of those small things that we talk about in our employability trainings to help people get into job markets both locally and internationally.
Okay, fantastic. I like that. Because that also addresses some of the challenges that people who haven't gone to higher levels of education experience when they're trying to. But then, how easy is it still to be able to say what process do I take? Am I going to look for a job first online or get a job placement? You know, we have a lot of stories of people who say that they got jobs, were offered a job in Qatar, or they offered a job in Lebanon, or they offered something and then they went there. So am I able to be able to legally and legitimately get a good job, knowing that I've gone through the process of going to a training center, getting upgraded, getting a trade certificate? Does it improve my chances? Is it an option for me? Because it's important that people who have the skills are able to know that they can migrate legally, so they don't fall into the traps or hands of traffickers.
Okay, so there are different migration routes for different countries. And though the ministry continues to, the International Labour Migration Desk of the ministry is trying to get countries to put their commitment into bilateral agreements. But currently, different countries have different pathways of welcoming people. And one very popular one is that you get a job first, and then your employer would facilitate your work visa. It comes with these conditions. It's important that people read. Many of this information are free online. You can get to know those conditions. For some countries, you have to work with that organization for the period of your visa. So if you leave that organization, your visa becomes invalid. You have to get another company that will sponsor your visa. And the conditions in country A is not exactly the condition in country B. So it's important that wherever you're going to, it's just like anywhere you're going to in the world, you need to know about the environment so that you don't go and work where strangers do not work. Do you understand? And things like that. So we should understand this. Now, for countries, different countries have what they call job bank, and what in Nigeria we call the NELEX platform. The NELEX platform in Nigeria is the National Electronic Labour Exchange, where employers bring their vacancies, and job seekers can go there and then apply for those jobs. And it is accessible through www.nelex.gov.ng. So other countries like Canada, Australia, Germany have such opportunities where the vacancies in the country are on those websites, and then people can go apply for those jobs. It is now important that people in the vocational and technical skill now understand how best to address those things. And that was why I made mention of the employability trainings. That is what will help persons to know, because one general thing people complain about, even young graduates, is that I don't have experience. And those are some of the things we talk about in an employability training. One way or the other, you have been engaged. Probably you are the financial secretary of a group in your church. You've performed some bookkeeping functions. Probably you have helped your mom in a shop in attending to customers. You have performed customer relationship functions. So those are things that will help. So even people who are in the vocational and technical skills, they need to understand how best to present their CVs and cover letters, so that a recruiter who sees it, it catches their attention, and then it improves their chances of getting employment. And then another thing is that job seekers need to understand that it's a competitive world out there. And so the fact that you sent out 10 vacancies and then you've not gotten a response, does not mean that there is no pathway, there is no headway where you are trying. So there is the need for consistency in what we are doing, and then be positive minded. Because many people just do, they say, people are applying, let me too apply. And then after 2 weeks, they don't get anything. They say, I told you. Do you understand? They give up, exactly. So people need to consistently. Someone was complaining that he applied to 10 scholarships and he got 7 rejections and 3 waiting lists. And then someone else was telling him that you are lucky. I applied to 50 and 23 did not give me a response. And the 2 of them that complained, the 2 of them, one is currently in Italy on a scholarship, the other is in China. So you see that if they are at different times giving up, then the story won't end in such manner. So even in Nigeria, getting a job is not that easy. Yes, it's very competitive. So you must first get the skills, verifiable skills, get your certifications, get references. That's why it's also important that when you're leaving a job, try as much as possible to leave on a good note. As much as possible, leave on a good note, so that when you come back and you want to get a reference letter, those, as small as that letter is, it helps clear the path that this person have worked in this organization performing these functions. It helps clear those parts. So get the skill. If you can't get the experience, and then position yourself better to harness these opportunities.
Thank you so much. Yes, so I believe strongly, without any doubt, that Emmanuel has unpacked it for anyone with any form of skills, whether it's vocational and technical skills, whether you're even a blue collar person, whether you're a professional, it's the same thing. And we're realizing now from what we are hearing from Emmanuel that maybe some of the gaps exist in how we're even putting ourselves forward. And we know that there's an organization like this in Nigeria that can start to help, for people with technical and vocational skills to forge a pathway so that they do not go to migrated irregularly. So Ibukun, do you believe that the need for people with technical or vocational skills is increasing either in Nigeria or even in the global markets?
I believe it's increasing because people largely, I would say, are going in the way or direction of their passion. And that's where vocational and technical skills actually fall under. The formal education is let's say, like a leverage or a platform. Let's say it's a platform for vast opportunities in the blue collar direction. But when I learn a skill, I have a skill, I can still trade with it. It is fun for me because it's what I want to do. Most of in the creative space now, if you look at our producers, they all have formal education in one form or the other. But directing, producing, it's fun. And they can train people. What formal education also helps you to harness is it shapings the path. It chips off a lot of irregularities, like you talked about the employability training. Formal education also brings that to life because you are engaging with different people from different backgrounds. There's a process, there's the language, if I would use etiquette, there's a form of behavior that is necessary.
That's true.
And it couches everything together.
Thank you. And you say, and immediately you use the word language. I then remembered that Emmanuel has to talk to us on the issue of language, because you discover that one of the challenges that you find for people who are in the lower educated cadre is also the issue of language. I want to go to an English speaking country, or I want to go to a French speaking country, I want to go to a country where German, Spanish, or Italian is spoken. Even highly educated, professionally educated people to the highest levels still struggle with language challenges. How do we deal with that challenge of language barriers? What is the option that exists for people who have just technical and vocational skills to be able to scale through to take advantage of opportunities that you have mentioned?
Okay, so it's also the language requirement is also country specific, while for some countries it is compulsory. Before this year, it was compulsory for you to have some level of proficiency in German language to migrate to work in Germany. But with of recent, that has been relaxed. But in the case of Germany, they would just encourage people to have an understanding of the language, or they get themselves in back-end jobs that would not have them speaking with people from time to time. So take, for example, the cameraman here does not understand English. We won't have so much challenge with that, because so long as it's doing its job properly. But it would be better for such person to understand the language that is spoken in the environment. Yes, for some other countries, I know for Canada we require test of English, whether IELTS, CLPIP, or the rest. But the requirements it varies. While for some you'll be required to score probably an 8 or a 9. For some others, you may be required to score maybe a 6 or a 5, depending on the skill. So, and usually for these vocational skills, the language requirements are not very high.
Okay.
So if, take for example, you want to school in a university, you may be required to get a minimum of maybe a band 6 or 7. But if you're going to work as maybe a truck driver or a plumber or someone who Tyler, maybe the requirements maybe about 4 or 5. So it's different countries and different employer give those requirements. So because we do not have a specific bilateral agreement with different countries, so it gives those level of flexibility with different places. So, but what the Migrant Resource Center does to help in this case is that, and it is also enshrined in the Nigerian labor law, section 37 or thereabouts, that when people get a foreign employment, before you can be engaged in an employment outside Nigeria, you have to come to the Ministry of Labor with certain things. First is the offer letter you've gotten from the organization. So where you do not understand some of the terms, so there are labor officers in the Ministry of Labor who would explain all of the terms to you, so that you clearly understand the terms before you get into it, to ensure that you will do a medical test before going. This will help you to help you be on a good stand with the employer, that before I started your job, this was my health stand. So if something happens later on, it was while I was. So those are some of those things. So that's the Migrant Resource Center of the Ministry of Labor does to help people who are not very learned to blend into the international labor market.
Thank you so much. It's been a very revealing session with both of my guests in the studio today. And I believe very strongly that any of our listeners would have taken a lot out of this. We are beginning to see that there are legal pathways for people with technical and vocational skills, and you do not have to migrate irregularly. You do not need to become a victim of smuggling or trafficking. And as we say, as we finish this particular episode today, I would like to ask you, what guidance or advice would you give to young people who are trying to build a pathway in the technical and vocational skills?
Okay, for young persons, my advice would be learn a skill you would enjoy. Don't learn a skill because people are doing it. You have to enjoy what you want to do. Because at the end of the day, you have to count how many years, 50, 60 years down the line, will I still find fulfillment in this? Would I be able to train other people? Can I build a legacy out of this? So you have to be able to go through a skill that you would enjoy. So after doing that, be part of that community. Don't isolate yourself. Information thrives in communities, associations. Be there. You learn, you grow, you develop, and network, which is what you need.
Thank you, Emmanuel. So, as we close the curtains on today's episode, what final words would you have for young people regarding career development and migration prospects?
Okay, let me first give the summary. The summary is in two. First is the slogan of the Migrant Resource Center, which is migration is your right, but you have to do it right. The second is that the future is skills. And that is this year at MRC has been a year of herald. The current head of MRC is so much on advocacy, on people knowing the importance of this. This year alone, we've been to about 8 schools, about 5 communities, and close to 20 religious organizations to ensure that people understand these 2 messages. First is migration is your right, but you must do it right. And then the skills is the future of work. So get yourself skilled, whether it's a contemporary skill, script writing or copywriting, cinematography, makeup, or the traditional skills, fashion designing, photography. Skills own the world. They rule the gig economy. And so it's important that all young persons and every person, even, yes, you'll be surprised that you see people who are going towards their retirement. They now want to learn a skill as a retirement plan. Exactly. So it's not just young persons.
Okay,
so it's everybody now. So the
all
skills
of us here,
is the future. Yes.
All of us here should our retirement plan now is skills. I think I should go and pick on Babin. I want to think Babin because every man, I know that every man in
Will
Nigeria and
patronize.
abroad will patronize me. So thank you very much. It's been quite an insightful one. Until we come back again on another episode of the Blue Table Talk Show. My name is Enitan Ibironke, and I am your host on the Blue Table Talk Show. And my 2 amazing guests have been Ibukun Owolabi, Gender and Safeguarding Lead for TAFTA, as well as Emmanuel Oladipupo Emmanuel from the MRC, and the amazing crew and team, Mikobanti, and everyone else. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.